If you're the owner of a 2019 and newer four-wheel drive Ram 1500 and you're looking to lift your truck using extremely high quality components from an industry leader, well then look no further than the Eibach Pro Truck Lift Stage 2R system that we're talking about here today. Now, when installed, this kit will provide truck owners with roughly 2 inches of additional front end lift thanks to the adjustable coilovers and just over 1/4 of an inch of lift in the rear thanks to new springs, and we'll even toss in these brand new rear dampers here with the reservoirs, all for right around that $1,800 price point. All right, so even though Eibach calls this a lift kit, I would personally call it more of a leveling kit thanks to the very small rear end kick that this kit does provide, which technically, yes, does put this in the lift category, but anyway, just know that the rear end lift is going to be very, very minor. Now, regardless, when we're talking about leveling kits or lift kits like we have here today, truck owners do have a couple of options on the market. Now, the most affordable is no doubt going with a puck style spacer that's basically going to mount to the top of your factory coilover to get you that desired lift or level for the front end. And these are going to be a cost-effective way to achieve more front end height to fit a bigger wheel and tire, but that's pretty much it. They don't really offer any other performance benefits or ride quality benefits outside of that level. And then you have something like this, which is a completely new set of adjustable coilovers for the front, along with new springs and dampers for the rear. And again, really, really nice hardware here, guys. In fact, the Pro 2R kit from Eibach is the company's highest level offering for the newer Ram and does come with some of the nicest components available for a kit like this currently on the site. Now, this is gonna include things like your adjustable coilovers here for the front, again, offering 0 to 2 inches of lift for the front end here. They do come preset at that 2-inch lift right out of the box. And then of course you have your rear springs for the Ram. And then my favorite part here, guys, will be these reservoir rear shocks that will offer greater heat dissipation and less cavitation over a standard damper. Now, not only will the combination of the legendary Eibach springs, of course, paired up with their dampers, contribute to just a much more controlled ride both on and off road, but it will also make way for a slightly larger set of tires as well. Now, unfortunately, Eibach doesn't give us any hard data or sizing here with this kit installed, but in my experience here, guys, with AmericanTrucks.com, leveled 5th gens at this height can get away with, I would say, a 34 by 11 or even bigger depending on offset and backspacing. We were able to fit 35s on our Ram without rubbing, but just keep in mind different offsets and different tire widths will affect your final fitment. Now, as far as your construction is concerned, well, for starters here, guys, I always like to point this out. The entire kit has been designed and built right here in the USA using very high quality components. Now, getting a little deeper into the construction, you'll find that both front and rear shocks do utilize a monotube design, 46mm internal piston here, and a nitrogen fill. Now, talking springs a little bit because let's face it, that's what Eibach is known for most. Front coilovers are loaded up with a set of Eibach's proprietary off-road race springs. Definitely going to help contribute to more off-road control and a little firmer or sportier ride on the road. Of course, when paired up with Eibach's rear spring as well here for the Ram 1500. Now, the bodies along with the actual coilover mount do utilize an anodized aluminum build, and the entire system has been given a limited lifetime warranty, which is a bit of a rarity in the suspension world and a testament to Eibach's build quality. Moving into price point here for the Eibach kit, and I think you'll find at or around that $1,800 price point, the Eibach system is going to occupy what I like to call kind of the middle to high end of the spectrum between those more budget-friendly puck style leveling kits on the very low end side of things, and then you can work all the way up the higher end of the spectrum to kits like the Cognito Motorsports options, which might deliver a little bit more lift along with some upper control arms, and that is going to help push a kit like that up into the $2,200 to $2,300 range. So if you're looking again to stick in that middle of the road, but you don't want to necessarily compromise when it comes to quality or components, the Eibach Stage 2R kit is certainly worth checking out. All right, last but not least here, guys, now we want to show you what it takes to get everything installed on your Ram at home. Site is going to call this one a full pull, 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and about 5 hours, half a day, give or take, to complete from start to finish. But to give you a better idea of what you're in for in the garage or driveway, let's throw it out to the guys in the shop right now for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include a couple different size impact guns, a ratchet, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, and 21 millimeter ratcheting wrench, 24 millimeter wrench, a clip remover tool, flathead screwdriver, a hammer, a swivel adapter, 16 and 21 millimeter swivel sockets, a couple different size extensions, 8, 18, and 21 millimeter sockets, a couple pry bars, and pole jacks or jack stands. What's up, guys? Today we're installing a lift kit on our Ram. First, we're gonna watch a quick video showing you how to uninstall your factory suspension components, and then I'll meet you right back here for the install.
First things first, guys, of course you wanna get your truck up in the air, whether you're using a lift or if you're working on the ground with the jack and jack stands. Now I got my 22 socket here in my air tools. I'm gonna get this wheel out of the way so we can get started. First thing we're gonna do with the wheel out of the way is disconnect a couple of ABS line clips. That way, when we're lowering down our entire spindle, it's not putting extra pressure on our brake lines. Now, this line here, the ABS line and the brake line are connected. So we're gonna pull back on this plastic clip to disconnect and slide those guys out. Follow the ABS line up and it's connected to the upper control arm. We're gonna wiggle that guy back and forth to disconnect it. Follow it back down to the spindle and there's one more to pull out. All right, now on the back of the spindle, you'll see this metal clip. It's more of an S-shaped. We're just gonna wiggle this rubber grommet out of that. And now you can see this whole thing's loose and has a lot of slack. Next step, we're gonna pick up our 21 millimeter deep socket and we're gonna loosen it and remove the nut holding on our tie rod end. Now what I like to do is once I have that nut off, pull the tie rod end out, and I like to put the nut back on just so we don't lose it. Next, we're gonna remove the bottom bolt of our strut. Now, it's a 21 millimeter bolt head with a 15/16 nut on the opposite end. So I've got my wrench on the nut there and my 21 on the bolt head. We're gonna get this guy off. Now, we may need a hammer to just tap this out, but if you can wiggle it out, you can do that now. All right, next we wanna remove the bottom of our sway bar end link nut and the upper control arm to spindle nut. Those things are gonna have the entire spindle drop down, or the lower control arm as well, and we wanna make sure we have that weight supported so it doesn't drop down on us. So if you're working on a lift, grab a pole jack at this point. If you're working on the ground, a hydraulic jack will do the trick. All right, next up, we're gonna grab an 18 millimeter deep socket and loosen and remove the bottom nut of our sway bar end link that connects to the lower control arm. Now, in theory, you could remove the top portion that connects to the sway bar, but I find it easier to do it this way just because there's a lot more room to work with and I can get an impact gun on here. So now we can take the 18 and remove it. With this out of the way, when we go to lower this thing down, the sway bar won't stop it from going as low as we need it. All right, so next we want to tackle the upper control arm to the spindle bolt. Now when we're trying to loosen it, this is going to rotate back and forth. In order to keep it from doing that, to make our lives easier, I'm just going to take this nut off and put our tie rod end back on. Now we don't have to tighten it down, but that'll keep it from moving around too much and help us out. With your lower control arm still supported, grab a 13/16 wrench or a 21, and you're going to go in here and break this upper control arm to spindle nut loose. We have this loose. I'm gonna bring the nut down to a couple of the last threads. We're not gonna completely remove the nut just yet. As you can see, the spindle is still attached to the upper control arm. We need to grab a hammer and break this guy loose so it'll jolt free. If you completely remove this nut, that'll break free and it'll drop down. So this is gonna help catch it. Then we'll come back and remove it. So we're gonna grab a hammer and tap on the actual spindle. You don't wanna hit the upper control arm. You don't wanna risk damaging the bushing. So we're gonna hit this side right here on the spindle. All right, so you saw us break that loose. Now we can remove our nut. I'm gonna grab a pry bar and put it on the coil and pull down on the upper control arm. That way we can disconnect them. Let's work that nut off. All right, I'm gonna drop that off to the side for now. You wanna grab the spindle and slowly let go of the upper control arm. Now we can bring this down. Right now I'm just gonna take that nut and again, just thread it up on the upper control arm just so we don't lose it. All right, now we have our truck lowered a little bit to gain access to the top of our strut. Now there's 3 nuts if you push this liner back a bit, one in the front right here, and then two at the back. Now you'll see the wire is actually mounted to the top of that, so we'll be able to pop those off in just a bit. I would definitely recommend a 16mm ratcheting wrench. I have a longer guy here to give me a little bit more leverage. This is gonna make life a lot easier just ratcheting back and forth. Otherwise, you can use a regular wrench or a ratcheting socket if you can get it in there. So let's get these 3 nuts off. All right, so now I'm just reaching my hand back in here and I'm gonna wiggle back and forth the wiring harness to get them off of the stud. All right, so we got one of them off, this little clip. Just pull that back and rotate it up. Let's do the same thing on the other one. And again, I know this is tough to see, really just pushing it out of the way. All right, so now we're switching back over to our ratcheting wrench and we're gonna work off the last 2 bolts. All right, at this point, the strut is loose. We just have to get it out of position. So in order to do that, I'm gonna push down on the entire spindle lower control arm assembly, lift this guy up, and pop it out. Just like that.
Now moving on to the rear, the first thing we need to do is remove one of our splash guards so that we can get access to our top shock bolt. So I've got an 8mm socket on a ratchet to pull out all the bolts holding that in. Next, we can take a 16mm socket and remove the top bolt on our sway bar end link. Now with that cover removed, we can loosen up this 18mm nut with an 18mm ratcheting wrench. And we can remove our bolt, our nut, and our top bushing. Next, we can go to our lower shock mount and take a 21mm socket and wrench to remove our bolt. Now we can pull our bolt out and remove our shock. Now we can lower our pole jack to lower down our axle to give us enough clearance to remove our spring. So now with our factory strut removed, we're ready to get our new one into place. So I'm gonna raise this up into our upper strut mount and then we'll get it over the lower control arm and into its position. And then once we get it to this point, we can stick a pry bar in our lower control arm. Now we can raise our strut into our upper mount and install our 3 nuts. Now we're just going to thread these on a few threads for now so that we still have enough mobility to get our bottom mount into place. Next we can grab our lower strut bolt and slide that through our mount. Now you can take a flathead screwdriver through the other side to help line this up. And once we have our bolt through, we can thread our nut onto the other side. And now we can take a 24mm wrench and 21mm socket to tighten this down. Next we can go back up top to our 3 nuts and take a 14mm ratcheting wrench to tighten those down. Now since we have more access to the front, I'm going to tighten this down first, and then the back 2 nuts we can spin the rest of the way on by hand, and then we only have to tighten those a little bit. Next, we can reconnect our upper control arm to our knuckle. So we're gonna get our knuckle in place first. And then we can grab a pry bar. And we'll kind of just walk that down into place. And then we can thread our nut onto our ball joint. Next, we can grab a 21mm socket and tighten down our nut. Next, we can reinstall our tie rod end. And thread on our nut. And then we'll take a 21mm socket and tighten that down. Next, we can grab the grommet on our ABS line and put it back into that S-clip on the back of the knuckle. Next, we can reconnect our ABS line to our upper control arm and clip it back into that clip on our brake line. Now, at this point, you're gonna wanna catch up on the other side because the last thing we have to do is reinstall our sway bar end link. You're gonna wanna do both of these at the same time. So you're gonna get it lined up with that hole in the lower control arm on both sides. And then you can take a pry bar to pry down on the sway bar to get that seated into place. And then you'll grab your nut and thread that on. And then take an 18mm socket to tighten it down. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. So now we're ready to install our new spring. So we're gonna take our factory top isolator. There's a little notch here for the end of the spring. So we're gonna slide that on and then we can raise this up into place. Next, we can install our new shock. So we'll get this into our upper mount first with our bushing and plate, and then thread our nut on. Next, we can reinstall our bolt for our lower shock and thread our nut on the other side. And then we'll grab a 21mm socket and wrench to tighten this down. Now we can go back up top and tighten down our 19mm nut with a 19mm ratcheting wrench. Next, we can reinstall our splash guard and thread in those bolts. And then we'll grab our 8mm socket and tighten these down. And now lastly, we can raise our sway bar end link up into place and thread in our bolt. And then we'll grab a 16mm socket to tighten that down. And now you can repeat that whole process on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Eibach Pro Truck Coilover Kit Stage 2R for your 2019 and newer 4-wheel drive 5.7 liter Ram 1500. Thank you for watching, and for all things Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.